There is a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when the world pauses just long enough for you to notice that something is watching you back. Not with eyes, not with intention, but with meaning. A moment when your inner life and the outer world seem to lean toward each other, as if sharing a secret they've waited your entire life to reveal. This is not fantasy. This is not superstition. This is the threshold Carl Jung pointed toward when he spoke of synchronicity. And tonight, you are standing at that threshold. You were never meant to live in a world that feels random. You were never meant to believe that your dreams, your thoughts, your fears, and your longings exist in isolation from the fabric of reality. That belief, cold, mechanical, disenchanted, was taught to you. It was inherited, and it is incomplete. What Jung dared to suggest, and what we will slowly uncover together, is that meaning itself may be woven into the structure of existence, not as cause and effect, but as correspondence, as resonance, as a falling together in time. Synchronicity is a beautiful word for a beautiful thing. Jung coined it in 1930, but the experience it describes is far older than language itself. It is the moment when an inner state, a dream, a thought, a question whispered to the soul, meets an outer event in perfect timing. Not because one caused the other, but because both arose from a deeper order we barely understand, a hidden architecture of meaning. And here is the danger. Synchronicity has been misunderstood, romanticized, diluted, turned into a carnival of signs, numbers, and cosmic winks. Jung warned against this. He was not inviting us into magical thinking. He was inviting us into rigor, into humility, into a confrontation with mystery that does not flatter the ego, but destabilizes it. Because true synchronicity does not tell you that you are special. It tells you that you are connected. Jung defines synchronicity as a meaningful coincidence. But he immediately complicated that definition because meaning alone is not enough. There are three components, three gates that must all open at once. First, there must be at least two events, one internal, one external. Second, the connection between them must be acausal. No chain of cause and effect can explain it. And third, and most forgotten of all, they must occur together in time, a falling together, synchronos, together in time. Imagine this. You are walking through a forest, speaking of a dream that once shook you to your core, a dream of a fox, spectral and strange. And at the exact moment your words leave your mouth, a real fox steps onto the path ahead of you. Not before, not after, now. The timing is the meaning. Remove the timing, and the spell breaks. Jung experienced moments like this repeatedly, and he was careful. He refused to cheapen them. He knew the human mind is hungry for patterns, desperate even. And so he insisted on discipline. He insisted that not every coincidence is a message, and not every repetition is a revelation. Meaning must be earned. This matters because we live in an age intoxicated with signs, numbers repeating on digital clocks, songs playing at just the right moment, algorithms feeding us illusions of destiny. But Jung would ask, where is the inner event? Where is the psychic state that meets the outer world in time? Without that, we are not encountering synchronicity, we are projecting it. Here is where the journey turns inward. Every true synchronicity begins in the psyche, a thought that grips you, a dream that lingers, a question you cannot shake. Something moves inside you before the world responds. And when it does respond, it does not obey your will. It does not arrive on command. It arrives as interruption, as surprise, as shock. There is humility in this. You cannot manufacture synchronicity. You cannot force it. The moment you try, you reduce it to superstition. Jung rejected magical causality, the idea that your thoughts bend reality like a lever. Instead, he proposed something far more unsettling, that psyche and matter may be linked by a principle that transcends both. And if that is true, then your inner life matters in a way no productivity system, no algorithm, no external success metric can measure. Let me pause here, not to break the journey, but to deepen it. As you hear this, notice what stirs in you. Curiosity? Resistance? A quiet remembering? If one word rises to the surface, something that names what you're feeling right now, let it be known. Comment that word. No explanation, just recognition. Because recognition is the first act of transformation. Now, we move deeper. Jung's collaboration with the quantum physicist Wolfgang Pauli was not accidental. Pauli understood that the foundations of reality were already cracking. Quantum physics had revealed a world where causality bends, where observation matters, where particles behave like symbols. Jung saw in this a mirror of the psyche. Archetypes, those ancient patterns of meaning, were not merely mental, they were structural. They reached down into matter itself. This is where synchronicity becomes dangerous to the modern worldview. If there exists an acausal connecting principle, something that links inner and outer events without cause, then the universe is not a dead machine. It is a living pattern, and you are not an isolated observer. You are a participant. But participation carries responsibility, because when meaning appears, it demands response. Not belief, not obsession, response, reflection, integration. Synchronicity is not a shortcut. It is a summons. And here is the promise I hinted at in the beginning. By the end of this journey, you will not be looking for signs. You will become capable of recognizing meaning without needing permission from the universe to live your life fully awake. But before that promise can be fulfilled, something must be dismantled. What if most of what you've been calling synchronicity has been hiding the real invitation, the one that asks you to change, not just to notice? There is a deep discomfort that arises when causality fails. We are trained from childhood to believe that every effect must have a cause, every outcome a lever, every result a formula. Control is comforting. Predictability feels like safety. But Jung stepped into a zone where control dissolves and meaning remains. The acausal nature of synchronicity is not a poetic flourish. It is the core of the idea. To say that two events are connected without one causing the other is to suggest that reality may be organized by more than mechanics. It suggests that time, space, and psyche may intersect in ways our rational frameworks cannot fully contain. Consider the story of Swedenborg. Hundreds of kilometers away from Stockholm, he announces a fire at the exact moment it is happening, describes its progress, its stopping point, its danger to his own home. Days later, the news arrives and confirms every detail. The mind recoils. If this were causation, we could analyze it, exploit it, repeat it. But it is not. It resists use. And that resistance is the point. Synchronicity cannot be harnessed. The moment you try to turn it into a tool for manifestation, you have misunderstood it. Jung was explicit. Invoking hidden forces to explain synchronicity is simply magical causation in disguise. It replaces mystery with fantasy. It flatters the ego and empties the experience of its transformative power. Because true synchronicity does not serve your desires. It confronts your orientation. It asks, who are you becoming? It asks, What pattern are you living inside without knowing it? It asks, what is trying to enter consciousness now? This is why Jung distinguished between synchronicity with a small s and synchronicity with a capital S. The small s is the experience, the moment of alignment. The capital S is the principle, the underlying structure that allows such moments to exist at all. Like gravity, you can witness its effects without fully grasping its nature. And Jung was ambitious, perhaps too ambitious. He wanted to redraw the map of reality itself, to move beyond the split between mind and matter, subject and object, to suggest that archetypes are not merely ideas, but organizing principles that shape both psyche and world. Whether or not his theory ultimately succeeds is almost beside the point. What matters is what happens to you when you take the idea seriously. Not literally, but existentially. Because if psyche and world are connected at depth, then your inner life is not a private theater. It is a node in a larger pattern. Your dreams are not noise. Your obsessions are not accidents. Your repeated encounters with certain themes, loss, power, abandonment, creation, are not random. They are invitations to consciousness. This is where many people get lost. They begin to chase coincidences, counting numbers, interpreting every external event as a message meant to reassure them. Jung warned against this explicitly. He dismissed runs of events composed of ordinary occurrences, no matter how impressive they feel. Emotional impact is not proof. Probability still applies. And this is uncomfortable because it denies us easy meaning. But discomfort is the gateway to maturity. True synchronicity does not make you feel chosen. It makes you feel addressed. And being addressed means you must answer, not with belief, but with action. This is where your life becomes the laboratory. Within the next few minutes of this narration, I want to offer you something practical, not as a contradiction to Jung, but as a modern response to his challenge. In the description below, you'll find a 21-day Dream Life Challenge, a structured invitation to engage your inner world with discipline, curiosity, and respect. Not to force synchronicity, but to deepen the psyche so that when meaning appears, you are capable of receiving it. Think of it not as manifestation, but as preparation. Preparation for a life where your inner and outer worlds are no longer strangers. Now, let us return to the danger zone. Jung himself encountered sequences that felt numinous, fish appearing everywhere during his study of fish symbolism, and yet he rejected them as synchronicities. Why? Because rigor mattered more than wonder. Because without rigor, meaning dissolves into narcissism. This may be the hardest teaching of all. Not everything that feels meaningful is meaningful in the way that transforms you. Some coincidences entertain, others inflate. True synchronicity destabilizes. It breaks something open. It leaves you quieter than before. So ask yourself, not aloud, but honestly, when you notice patterns, do they challenge you or comfort you? Because only one of those leads to growth. What if the universe isn't sending you signs to reassure you, but signals to disrupt the life you've outgrown? Disruption is not destruction, it is revelation. When Jung spoke of synchronicity, he was not offering escape from reality. He was offering a deeper entry into it. A way of seeing that strips away the illusion that you are merely a passenger in a meaningless flow of events. But here is the paradox. The more you try to see meaning everywhere, the less capable you become of recognizing it when it truly arrives. Meaning is shy. It appears when you are present, not when you are grasping. This is why Jung insisted on the internal component. Without a psychic state, without a living question in the soul, the external world has nothing to answer. The world does not speak to idle curiosity. It responds to necessity. Think of the moment when Deschamps remarks on the absence of an old acquaintance, only for that man to appear at the door, lost and disoriented. The coincidence alone is amusing, the timing is striking, but what gives it weight is the inner gesture, the thought spoken into the world, answered without cause. This is not magic, it is dialogue, and dialogue implies relationship. What Jung gestures toward is a universe that responds, not mechanically, but symbolically, not to desire, but to readiness. Symbols are not decorations, they are compressed meanings, bridges between what you know and what you are becoming capable of knowing. The tragedy of modern life is not that meaning is gone, it is that we no longer know how to listen without immediately translating everything into reassurance or utility. Synchronicity asks for something rarer, patience. It asks you to hold tension without resolving it too quickly, to notice without concluding, to feel awe without immediately turning it into a belief system. This is where depth begins. If you commit to engaging your dreams, your inner images, your repeating emotional patterns, not as messages to obey, but as realities to understand, you begin to change the quality of your attention. And attention is the currency of transformation. This is why the inner work matters more than the outer event. The fox in the forest is not the miracle. The readiness to recognize the moment is, and readiness cannot be rushed. As you continue listening, you may notice something subtle happening. The language slows you down. The ideas refuse to collapse into slogans. This is intentional, because synchronicity does not belong to speed. It belongs to kairos, the right moment. Chronos is clock time. Kairos is meaning time. When you live only in Chronos, life feels like a sequence of tasks. When Kairos breaks through, life becomes a story you are inside. And here's the quiet truth Jung never stopped circling. A life without meaning is psychologically unsustainable. The psyche will invent meaning if none is offered. That invention can become delusion, obsession, or despair. Synchronicity, approached with discipline, offers a third path, not invention, not denial, but encounter. An encounter with something larger than the ego, yet intimate enough to speak through your own inner life. This is why we must be careful. Not every repeating number is a message. Not every coincidence is a call. But when inner necessity and outer event meet in time without cause and leave you changed, pay attention. Not because you are special, but because you are responsible. Responsible for integrating what you've seen. Responsible for living differently because of it. And integration is where most people stop. They collect experiences but do not digest them. They notice patterns but do not transform habits. They speak of meaning but avoid sacrifice. But meaning always asks for something in return. It asks you to shed an old identity. It asks you to let go of a certainty. It asks you to step into a life that feels less controllable and more alive. If you accept that invitation, something changes. You stop chasing signs. You start cultivating depth. And depth, paradoxically, invites meaning more reliably than than obsession ever could. What if the next true coincidence in your life won't appear until you become someone capable of being changed by it?
At the end of Jung's inquiry, there is no neat conclusion. There is no formula. There is only a posture toward life, a way of standing in the world that neither reduces it to mechanics nor inflates it into fantasy. Synchronicity, in its truest sense, leaves you more grounded, not less. It returns you to your life with sharper attention, deeper humility, and a renewed respect for mystery. Jung himself was cautious, even skeptical, of his own grand theories. He knew how easily the psyche deceives itself. That skepticism is not a weakness. It is the ethical core of his work. He refused to trade rigor for wonder. And so should you. The promise I hinted at in the beginning was never that you would see more signs. It is that you would need fewer. When your inner life is cultivated, through reflection, through dreams, through disciplined attention, the world no longer needs to shout. Meaning arrives quietly, sometimes as a question, sometimes as a disruption, sometimes as a moment that cannot be explained, but also cannot be forgotten. You do not own these moments. You are entrusted with them. And what you do afterward matters more than the experience itself. Do you return to old habits unchanged? Or do you allow the encounter to reorganize your priorities? This is the real work. Not interpretation, but transformation. If synchronicity points to anything enduring, it is this. You are not separate from the pattern of life, but you are also not its master. You are a participant, capable of awareness. And awareness is enough. Enough to live with dignity. Enough to choose depth over distraction. Enough to recognize when life is asking you to grow. The world has not lost its meaning. It has lost our patience. Tonight, as this narration comes to rest, carry this with you, not as belief, but as orientation. Live as though your inner life matters. Pay attention without demanding reassurance. Let meaning change you before you try to explain it. That is the quiet revolution Jung offered, and it is still waiting for those willing to listen.